Hello and welcome back to Continental Club, where we discuss the hottest topics in European football. We are still in the East Dulwich Tavern, but we are in a new room in the East Dulwich Tavern because I believe there is some sort of salsa class upstairs or something like that. But we've got a fire. McCubs might catch a light at any moment. But McCubs, if you don't catch a light, and if this is not your final show, how are you?
Yeah, good. So regardless, feeling quite toasty, liking this new little table. We've got a very grand table to sit around as well. Fancy, So yeah, I'm all good. Obviously, we're going to get stuck into stuff about Pochettino today, and as a United fan, being kind of been a bit of a roller coaster, a couple of days of getting slightly excited about speculation and then not so excited. So yeah, who knows? Who knows what's going to happen in the next 2 days as well before this goes out? But,
Absolutely, yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm looking forward to getting stuck into PSG.
Yeah, we should clarify that. We weren't able to film on a Thursday, so this is being shot on Wednesday afternoon. So all the information that we say in this episode is up to date at that particular moment, but it's an ever-changing situation. Henry, before we get into the ever-changing situation, Champions League last night, pretty entertaining.
Yeah, I mean, some serious goals. Young boys versus Atalanta really pulled it out. All the stops that game. Actually gutted for young boys, because if they'd won that, it would have added a little bit more jeopardy in the United game. Because if they'd gone to Old Trafford and beat them there, I think they would have gone through at Atalanta's expense, or they at least were in with a shot of going through. As a result, they're not anymore. But I think fair play to them. I called them out as one of the teams to potentially look out for in terms of how well they've been playing, certainly under the previous management. So yeah, they were great. And yeah, Chelsea, it annoys me so much. It really annoys me that they are playing so well at the moment. But you can't disregard everything they're doing under Tuchel at the moment. They just look unstoppable. Well, forgive me, I'm so flustered from cycling here at breakneck speed that I feel as if I'm just going to collapse at any moment. So hopefully getting emotional about Leonardo won't tip me over the edge. But yeah, Chelsea last night, unbelievable. And Juventus, I was just wondering what you boys thought. Seeing Tuchel outclass Allegri like that really makes me think that Allegri hire is bad. It's almost as if they really have gone backwards. We saw Pat talking about this on Sunday Vibes the other day. But seeing sort of a fresh new manager like Tuchel completely outwit Allegri, who's basically answerless to anything put out there. The best chance they had, Thiago Silva, cleared off the line. Allegri just looks a little bit like the wrong man for the wrong job at the moment, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think I guess they kind of went for him as like a safe option, didn't they? But this is a guy who hadn't had a job, since leaving them in 2019, and I don't know, I had more faith going into the start of the season, but now Juve is still 7th, 8th in the league. It's just nothing's really going their way at the moment, is it? In that sense, and I think that's always going to reflect badly on a manager who is he's no longer at the top table, is he anymore? I don't think anyone else
Might not be at the second table,
Really? I mean, especially in Italy, would you say he's one? You probably wouldn't say he's one of the top 3 or 4 managers in Italy at the moment either. So yeah, I think when results go like that, questions are always going to be asked. But I don't know, Juve were still really good against them in Turin, weren't they? So I wouldn't write off their prospects just yet. But it's a pretty damning result for them. Isn't it like the heaviest ever Champions League defeat or something? Yeah. Which is pretty amazing considering they've been in it pretty much every season. That's a pretty amazing record to have not lost by 4 goals. But yeah, it definitely shows where they are right now.
Yeah, I'd say that Allegri is way behind Tuchel as well, but Tuchel does have an infinitely better squad in pretty much every position, and there's just a lot of waste men, let's say, in Juve's midfield, like Arta coming on, like Rabiot. The sooner Rabiot ends his Juve nightmare, I think would be better for everyone, to be totally honest. But fair play to Chelsea, fair play to Tuchel. I think Reece James has been absolutely phenomenal in the last few weeks as well.
Yeah, can I just based on the Champions League question, can I just give a quick shout out to Jonathan David? Because I think he scored again for Lille, who've somehow gone from having a rubbish league season to a great Champions League group stage so far. Jonathan, one of the questions I saw sent in the response to the Twitters was what we think of Jonathan David. He's playing so well and he's got them through some knockout rounds of the Champions League. So fair play to him. I think he's definitely in for a move at some point if he keeps up these performances, because he's come good for Lille.
I love it. Yeah, very well-rounded striker as well, can drop deep really nicely. But anyway, let's kick on with Boggle93's question. And he says, does Leonardo need to leave? It seems like he's the issue at the club. Now, obviously, whether Pochettino leaves or not, then you might have more clarity by Friday. It does seem like Leonardo has fallen out, or at least made a second manager in a row pretty unhappy. McCubs, Leonardo, do we feel like he's the issue holding PSG back? Do you think it's their weird expectations where only really success is measured in the Champions League? Do you think he's unworkable? What do you think about Leonardo?
Yeah, it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because I was trying to find out kind of some meaty information about Leonardo going into this episode, going into this shoot, and I actually struggled to find anything particularly exposing about him. Yeah, and obviously, you know, we covered quite well, I think, him and Tuchel's falling out last year, or alleged falling out, but, you know, it was a very public kind of dispute, really, that they had over transfers and the rest of it born out of, you know, Tuchel's frustration that PSG basically didn't spend any money at all, did they?
On the back of that final,
in the 2020 window, and the players that they did bring in, I don't think were the players that Tuchel wanted necessarily. Having said that, I think in 2019, when they brought in players like Idrissa Gueye, etc., I think those were players that were more geared towards Tuchel's thinking. So, nevertheless, yeah, it's clear that, I don't know, it feels like Leonardo isn't necessarily the best, you know, the easiest person to get on with in that sense, or to have a good working relationship with. We know that Pochettino has always demanded quite a lot of control at the clubs that he's been at, whether that was at, you know, Southampton and Spurs, where he did have a lot of control. At Spurs, he did work pretty well, actually, I think, with quite a little investment, didn't he? Especially in the last kind of 3 years, when there wasn't really much backing in the transfer market whatsoever, as they were kind of funding that new stadium. And but nevertheless, I don't know. Yeah, it feels like it's not the best fit in that sense. And yeah, I think when you've got, you know, that Tuchel situation that obviously ended up with him leaving the club last December, he had in such recent memory. I think there's always going to be a lot of speculation when things aren't quite going to plan. And to be fair, last month, Leonardo came out and very much backed Pochettino, was saying the criticism that the side was receiving was too much, and but nevertheless, he was still like, you know, he was also like saying things like, oh, well, obviously Pochettino, like all these people saying that Pochettino doesn't know what he's doing. Like, of course he knows what he's doing, but it's kind of like,
why are you raising that?
I kind of feel like you don't need to raise that.
Yeah.
Just because you don't even need to regard that because it's such a stupid thing. Obviously there are loads of like angry PSG fans who will say those kind of things, but there's loads of angry fans at loads of clubs who will say those kind of things. Clearly Pochettino, like, that doesn't warrant a response. So things like that would worry me a little bit. But then, you know, Poch has come out, you know, yesterday and was said that he's very happy at the club and everything. So yeah, I think. So I don't know. There definitely feels like there's something bubbling under the surface there. But yeah, what was the second question you were saying?
Whether that's mainly like just I always feel like with PSG, you know, can only really succeed in one way. Like if they don't win the league, it's an enormous failure. If they don't do a domestic treble, it's kind of a bit of a failure. They can only really succeed in the Champions League every year. And the last few years, their performances have generally been pretty good. Like they've gone a lot further under Tuchel. I thought they were unlucky to lose that final to Bayern, to be honest. Last year against Man City, I think they were well in that tie, particularly in the first 60, 70 minutes of the first leg. I think they were pretty dominant. Then their sort of discipline fell apart in the second half. So I just feel like whichever manager goes in there, you're kind of doomed to fail before you start. And it feels like, you know, if you get rid of Tuchel and Pochettino also leaves in the space of 2 years, we'll come on to it in a bit, but Zidane, like, is he an upgrade on Tuchel and Pochettino? We don't really know. It's not clear. And it just feels like it's going to be very, very difficult for any manager to succeed there. I mean, Henry, it's interesting to note that this is Leonardo's second spell at the club, and the first one sort of ended in quite dramatic fashion. I don't know whether that's really relevant to this, but it's definitely interesting.
I think it's more relevant in the sense that I can understand why he feels, if he isn't necessarily the man that calls all the shots, I can see why he feels very sort of precious. This is, you know, he was there at the start of the Qatari era of the PSG project, and if we see some of his signings as sort of sporting director in his first time there, Pastore, Motta, Menez, Sissoko, Thiago Silva, Lavezzi, Zlatan and Verratti, the latter four in particular, kind of real building blocks that started PSG really pushing through and maybe going a bit deeper into the Champions League. Obviously Zlatan became their all-time top scorer. I think Cavani has since sort of overtaken that, whatever. But Thiago Silva as well, sort of a linchpin there. We've seen how good he is. So these are sort of decent selections of signings, and you can see when he returned again, you're right, he got sort of banned for pushing a referee for 9 months, was extended to 13, and then he resigned, went back to AC Milan. We're actually pretty damning. What he did at AC Milan is pretty damning.
1 year of terrible something.
Yeah, Paqueta obviously has come good now at Lyon, but Caldara, Piontek signed after 6 months, one of the biggest sort of rush signings you'll ever see. Kalinic, Castillejo, Laxalt, Higuain, Barini, Bakayoko, not great at all. Big waste of money there, and it's interesting to see AC Milan
really.
kick on then.
is the only decent one really in there. Castillejo is still there, I guess, as well.
But yeah, I can completely see what now the next generation of the side. He's brought in Gana Gay, Sarabia, Navas as well, Icardi, Herrera. These are all his signings, all 1920. I can see why he feels sort of as if this is his team. He's imprinted on it. But I'd be interested to see how much sort of draw Al Khalifi as the president really has in bringing a lot of these players to the club. I'll be surprised if Leonardo's the sole voice attracting them. I think Al Khalifi is a very well-respected individual, isn't he, within football? You just have to look at his sort of resume and all the different various boards, European Club Association, which he's president of, etc. So I feel like he really does have a pull as well. But yeah, there is a sense that Leonardo, I think, is just maybe a bit power crazy at certain points when it comes to this PSG project. And sort of scare off Thomas Tuchel, I think that's really quite damning if we're seeing what he's doing now. Sort of touched on it at the start. Quality manager, if he took PSG to the final and if he's really not getting the support and backing he deserves at that moment in time, because they were super impressive when they got to the final, beaten by a very good Bayern Munich side. You can't really write them off. Bayern Munich, an incredible team. So yeah, if Thomas Tuchel doesn't feel as if he's getting the support from the hierarchy in that situation, then I wonder who else is going to. And maybe that's when you have to start and look and think who's the real culprit in this situation.
Yeah. It's interesting with Tuchel. He basically said that Tuchel was there before he returned and was sort of quite wedded to his way of thinking and didn't really like Leonardo coming in and starting calling the shots. But with Pochettino, it seemed like all was quite happy, at least when he was first appointed. It's slightly gone downhill now, but I wonder whether that sort of failure to really cut the deficit too much to Lille last year is really holding him back as well. Because if we look at their performances this year, yeah, they haven't been great, but results have been pretty good, to be honest, which we'll come on to in due course. But let's move on to Mr. Armchair Fan's question. Now, it says if Zidane joins, we don't know whether Zidane will join in the next few weeks, or maybe he'll join next summer, but if he does join at any stage, do you think he's the final piece of the puzzle they need for that elusive Champions League trophy? I mean, McCubbs, what do you make of that? Because he does have a lot of experience at that level of club, maybe more so than Pochettino.
Yeah, I mean, he has that experience with those kinds of players. He was able to manage, someone like Ronaldo really, really well, and also a quite an established team. I know we kind of banned around the egos thing, but it was a team that was kind of capable of managing itself in many ways. A team that had fallen out. Pretty much every senior player had fallen out with Mourinho before, hadn't they? Rafa Benitez, clearly came very easily unstuck, managing that side as well. So you do have to give him a lot of credit for that in terms of coming in and being able to rear that side and to be able to get those kind of players to trust him.
Managed up very well as well with Florentino Perez.
Yeah, and this is a thing that I can't remember who was. In fact, that was it. Yeah, I can't remember which article I was reading about this, but like in the case of Pochettino and Tuchel as well, I think the Athletics got Alistair Campbell on the line to like talk about management and stuff. And that obviously he's like a Burnley fan, but obviously also operated in a very kind of spicy political kind of era with like Tony Blair and that. And he was saying, so he I guess he has an insight into what it's like to manage people.
Tony Blair as Leonardo in this scenario.
I guess so, yeah.
In or maybe he's Nasser Al Khelaïfi.
Yeah, I mean, but either way, he was saying, like a manager's job now is to, you do have to manage up rather than just below you. And that's certainly something that I think, Tuchel. I think Tuchel's probably struggled with it a little bit. Like, he left Dortmund after disputes, didn't he, with the hierarchy as well. He's probably not the easiest person to get along with all the time as well. And he's doing great at Chelsea now, but do I think he'll be Chelsea manager in 2 years? Probably not. I think there will be something. I do think there will be something, especially with Abramovich and whatnot in his record. So, but yeah, like you were saying, Dukes. Back to the matter at hand, Zidane. I mean, he was brought back in by Perez, wasn't he? Even after he resigned, after they had those disputes following the Champions League final in 2018. So I mean, he carries that respect. My only issue is that like, I feel like when Zidane comes in, there is instantly going to be that expectation, right? Like when Poch came in.
You think so?
Well, yeah, I mean, like that's the one thing that he has is the Champions League, right? Zidane, like that is
It's kind of like his USP,
it's his selling point. And I think if he came in and he wasn't able to deliver one in 2 years, then there would be a serious problem. And then I don't know. The thing is though, it's like on the basis of it, it's not the toughest job because you've got so many great players. Like Unai Emery won like 2 domestic trebles, and I feel like tactically was not that adventurous. Like he basically just let the forwards do their thing, and I feel like even at times under Pochettino, and this is what I kind of find a bit worrying, is that I don't watch PSG every week, but when I do watch them, they don't necessarily look like a Pochettino team to me.
No, that's crucial, isn't it?
And that's like something where, as a big Pochettino fan, makes me a little bit sad. And on the other side of things, it's like if he's not able to get the players to do everything that he wants them to do, or they're not fully signed up to his way of thinking, then it's just never going to work, is it? Because that's how that's why he's so good. It's because at Southampton and Spurs, he was able to get a team to completely follow him, and he was able to make them work really, really tough, like harder than they'd ever worked in their lives. Like that's just not going to happen with some of those players at PSG. Partly because like the age range at the club is quite vast, isn't it? You've got quite a lot of young, some quite promising young players, but a lot of older players as well, a lot of veterans who just aren't really physically up to doing something like that. So yeah, I think Zidane is probably better suited to this squad in many ways, but like he's not that guarantee of Champions League success. Like his record between 2016 and 2018 can't completely dictate what they expect from him, I don't think.
I think he's perfect. PSG,
Really?
I really do. I think it's such an intriguing job as well. I mean, he literally is Zidane and the Pavones, or whatever. He is sort of the birth of the Galactico idea of marrying great players with, because there is obviously 2-tier of player at PSG at the moment, and they're not.
To be fair, the younger players at PSG are far better than the younger players at Real Madrid were back in the early 2000s as well.
But still, just trying to marry that front line together and get them all to work cohesively. Like the results, yes, they're winning lots under Pochettino, but they're not blowing teams away. We even saw that against Nantes this weekend. They basically relied on some decent finishing at the end. Nantes really should have got more out of that game for the second season, I think, in a row at the Parc des Princes. So yeah, it isn't great, but it is an intriguing job. In just, you say there's not almost necessarily loads to do, but the finite changes that he can make and his sort of, I remember Ancelotti saying that when Zidane speaks, the players listen. They really do. If you look at what he did with Real Madrid, convincing Ronaldo and Ramos to take breaks at certain points in the season, slow down to ensure that they would arrive at the end of the campaign in their best condition possible, finding a system that really married all the players together, because I do think that Pochettino, he's not out of his depth because he's obviously a great manager, but he's, as you say, he comes from a place of complete adoration from his players and complete respect. Almost, he enhanced the players, and he's coming to a situation where he's got ready-made superstars, and he's having to get them to listen to his every word. I'm not saying he's not doing it at all. I think he's doing all right with what given his limited experience with this caliber of player. But I think Zidane, 3 Champions League, 2 La Ligas, 6 other trophies. They put together amazing wing streaks. He really coaches a tight defence, which is what PSG are struggling with at the moment. They do concede way more than they should for a team of their sort of...
In the Champions League especially.
Yeah, a team of their level. They haven't looked massively convincing in the Champions League, have they?
Well, we don't know what happens against Man City
That's
tonight.
true, actually.
Yeah.
It could be a masterclass, couldn't it? I do take your point. I think that the main difference is Pochettino is like very much a system manager, whereas like Zidane is incredibly pragmatic from that kind of Ancelotti kind of school of like seeing what you've got and
doing whatever
like
you take.
And like you said, like keeping players happy, and like I don't know,
I think it's
working with the situation.
It's interesting, that whole Claude Makélélé, when he left Real Madrid situation, Zidane recognised how stupid that was. He recognised how he was always the one that said, why give your car another lick of paint when you're selling the engine, kind of thing. It's that.
Great quote.
It's he understands even the players that perhaps on paper perhaps disrespected. He understands how crucial they can be, and I think I genuinely, the gravitas that he brings, he's one of the greatest midfielders of all time. And proven track record as a manager as well. I really think he'd be perfect for this PSG job in a way that Pochettino I don't think ever really will be.
Oh, fair enough. Spicy opinion there. I feel a little bit sorry for Pochettino because I know that seems ridiculous when he's managing one of the biggest clubs in the world, but as I said at the start, the expectations. And then, which manager ever expects like 6 of the biggest egos to arrive at their dressing room in one summer? And try and make that all happen.
Signing Donnarumma as well as Navas.
Yeah.
Like, that's putting him in an impossible situation.
I know Sergio Ramos has barely been able to play, but you know, you've got to try and make a team around Messi when it's already been based for so long around Mbappe and Neymar, and I don't think it's just as easy as you go like, oh, you're 3 great players, make it work. And then you've got to factor in Di Maria, who's probably been arguably the most consistent out of the 3 of them over the last 3 years as well. I know Mbappe's probably had better high points, but I think Di Maria's base level's probably been a bit higher.
But I think that's. I think again, it does boil down to the hierarchy, doesn't it? It does boil down to someone like Leonardo. It boils down to El Khalifi, and there's this kind of disconnect between what PSG are building commercially and what they're building on the football pitch. And like, yeah, their transfer policy has been. Yeah, they've managed to pull off some. Yeah, they managed to pull off some amazing signings. There's no doubt about it, especially last summer. But it's changed It's changed a lot over the last few years. We thought they kind of were turning a corner a little bit in 2019 when they brought in like the likes of Gay, etc. And yeah, bringing in someone like Tuchel, who's very much a project manager. But then to replace Tuchel with another big project manager like Pochettino, and then go out this summer and sign these kinds of players. Well, they're not necessarily. Hakimi was an amazing signing, for example, but yeah, there's not that same. It's not the same line of thinking in terms of who they're hiring as manager and how they're conducting transfer business. Obviously the transfer business they've done has helped to boost their image around the world. Like they boost interest. Commercially, I think they are like the most enticing football club in world football out of the newly moneyed clubs. Like no doubt about it. Like, but equally. Yeah, that doesn't fit with like project managers, and I think Henry's right in that. Like, yeah, Zidane fits that image quite well in a footballing perspective and a commercial perspective, and the fact that he's not, you don't need him to be there for 4 years to get results necessarily. But equally, I'll just say I do still think like fans should still take. If he is appointed, take it with a pinch of salt, because this will still only be his second job in the game, won't it? And it is still a new situation for him in many ways, even if he's better suited to it. And a new situation with a lot of new players in that situation as well, which I think is quite crucial. Everyone's getting used to each other at PSG at the moment. Got a couple of questions just to wrap up this section. Peterson Jr. says, does Zidane's arrival mean that Mbappe is likely to stay? Obviously, Zidane's arrival might not go through until the summer, but maybe that will be a factor then. Joe Tomlinson, who you might have heard of as well, he says, will it tempt Pogba to PSG over Real Madrid or Juventus? Quickly, lads, before we move on to our next section, what do you think about that? Henry, does Zidane's potential arrival mean Mbappe is going to be like, no? I think it's more likely to attract Pogba to PSG than it is. I think Mbappe's made his mind up. He wants to go. I think he just needs a new challenge. Yeah. I mean, so stupid. That whole transfer's so stupid. If he's going to walk away for free, fair enough to Mbappe. PSG, they didn't accept 200 million last summer. That's their own stupid fault, quite frankly. But I think Pogba to PSG is far more likely at this point. Why would he want to go back to Juventus right now, other than maybe he loves Turin, but I can't believe that being a solid enough reason. Real Madrid is always, I think Real Madrid is the only other option, but I think they're far more likely to put their eggs in the Mbappe basket, and if that happens, I'm not sure what Pogba has to do, and PSG maybe fits his image. As you said, they've got the nicest shirt, the nicest kit in world football. So, the Jordan collaboration is just timeless, isn't it? That is the best thing. But yeah, for me, Pogba to PSG is more likely than Mbappe staying. I think he wants to go. Yeah, I'd agree with that, but especially the Mbappe thing. Pogba to PSG if Zidane comes in, McCubs? Yeah, I mean, if I was Pogba, I'd do it. Yeah. No doubt. I agree. Yeah, I think Mbappe's a harder sell in terms of like, we're getting Zidane in. Like, I mean, I know they have great respect for each other and everything, but I don't know. It's a bigger decision for Mbappe. I think Pogba's going to have his pick of a number of teams next summer, and I think PSG seems the most well suited for him. And I think PSG probably in some ways need Pogba more than like Real Madrid or
Really?
Real Madrid. I think Pogba would be a really good addition to that midfield. I think in a way that I feel like there are other options for Real Madrid, and also PSG as well can kind of afford to just take a punt on like a 29-year-old in the same way that Real Madrid can't really.
Because he would probably mean that Wijnaldum is once again back on the sidelines if he went there. Would you rather have the hard-working, sort of decent, quality nature of Wijnaldum, where you guarantee the sort of at least 7.5 out of 10 performance every game, or would you rather go for the Pogba where you'll get that 9 out of 10 but accompanied with a lot of 6s?
A lot of 4s.
It's difficult to know, because Wijnaldum has been really inconsistent this year. Like I know he's struggled to get into the team, but he started really poorly in his first few games. I know he's picked up a bit recently. So I don't know whether Wijnaldum is just really unhappy there. I don't know whether he is that solid 8 out of 10 guy anymore. I think Pogba alongside Gay and Herrera or Gay and Verratti, that's ridiculous.
I think crucially as well, he can give them that kind of creativity from deep that I think Di Maria often used to provide when he would play more in the midfield. And obviously Di Maria is not getting any younger. I feel like they could do with something like that.
I think Di Maria is out of contract this summer as well. So guys, there we have it. That's our verdict on PSG. Leonardo perhaps not unworkable with. Pochettino, there we go. Pochettino perhaps being a little unfairly treated, but Henry's on the Zidane train. Guys, what do you think? Would you like to swap Pochettino for Zidane if you're a PSG fan? And do you think Leonardo's just too difficult to work with? Get your thoughts in the comments down below. And let's move on to our new section. Right, guys, as I said, we've got a slightly new twist on the big match preview. Basically, we've done analytical deep dives on one game in Europe every week for about 2-3 years. Now we want to talk about 5 games, but more quickly, more sort of potentially more argumentative, quick predictions on 5 of the best games. You get 3 points for a perfect score, 1 point for a correct result, and 0 points if you get it wrong. And we'll do a tally on the right-hand side in future weeks, and we'll see who comes out on top towards the end of the season. So the first game, guys, we're going to talk about is Real Madrid versus Sevilla. It's first versus third in La Liga. They're currently separated by just 2 points. Henry, what are your thoughts about this game, and what's your score prediction?
Sevilla are one of the worst big game teams domestically. They just never seem. Whenever they have an opportunity,
finally in the Champions League, though.
Yeah, fine. Whenever they have an opportunity to do something in the league, they always manage to fluff it up. I'm not being funny. And their squad confuses me so much because Monchi's saying this is like the greatest team they've put together, and I think manager-wise, it's pretty exceptional. Yeah. But it's very scattergun, their approach to the market, isn't it? They just sort of buy a massive quantity of players and hope some of them sort of wait for the team to work itself out throughout the season. You've seen that with Eric Lamela coming in, doing bits and pieces. So yeah, I'm not sure. I think Real Madrid are too good at the moment. I think they're so good. Some of their goals last weekend against Granada, amazing. That Modric goal to Vinicius at the pass.
Lovely interchange, yeah.
Modric is incredible, just keeps going. So yeah, for me, this is a fairly comprehensive Real Madrid victory. I just can't see Sevilla really causing them many problems with. And the series not scored tons this season. You never know where the goals are coming from at the moment. So yeah, for me, Real Madrid are more cohesive.
We need a score, man.
Oh right, okay. I'm gonna go for 3-1.
3-1 to Real. Yeah, they did look excellent last weekend. Real Madrid. I think it could be tighter than that. To be fair, Real Madrid's defence has been a little bit shaky at points this year, and their attack I think it's third in Europe behind Bayern and Liverpool in terms of goals scored. Ancelotti deserves a lot of credit, I think, for what he's done on his return there in difficult conditions. I'm just going to go with a boring 1-0 to Real Madrid. But yeah, that's what I'm thinking. McCubbs, what do you reckon?
I might just be different and go for a Sevilla win.
This is the thing. Now there's points on the league table on it. We can go for the same one if you want.
Oh yeah, we can. Of course we can. But I think we've always been able to do that, haven't we? We've just been a bit scared to. No, I think I'm just going to go for a Sevilla win. I just think Real Madrid haven't been defensively. They're still not amazing this season. And I think Sevilla have been generally pretty well organised. Obviously, they haven't they haven't played in any huge games this season. So this is going to be like a test of their mettle in that sense. But yeah, I'm happy to bank on them. I'll go 2-1 Sevilla.
Love it.
Can I say, they only conceded 9, so I've suggested they're going to concede 33% more of their goals in one game.
It happens, though. Those kind of things do happen.
Yeah, so maybe a bit silly from me. But yes, 3-1, stand by it.
Stick with your guns. Okay, that's our thoughts about Real Madrid versus Sevilla. Get yours in the comments down below. Let's move on to Napoli versus Lazio. Huge game in Serie A, first versus sixth. Napoli have 11 more points at the moment, but McCurbs, some big injuries for the Napolitans.
Yeah, Osman's out for like 3 months, something like that, which is huge for them. Anguissa's also out. I'm not sure how long Anguissa's out, but massive for this game. I think he's been... There's a lot's been made of kind of Anguissa's defensive contribution for Napoli this season, but like, actually he's, I thought he really impressed me against Inter last weekend in terms of his contribution in the final third. Should have set up a goal late on. So yeah, but equally, Napoli have had the wind taken out of their sails by that result. I think a bit. I feel like that first defeat of the season was coming at some point. Same can be said for Milan, and obviously they both happened on the weekend. Equally though, Lazio, I'm going to go for a draw with this one. I'm going to go like 2-2. Two high-scoring teams.
Okay, Henry, what are you making of this one?
My instinct says Napoli to win, but they are so random this season. Some highlights you see them blowing teams away. Felipe Anderson playing incredibly well, and then beaten Roma, Inter, Fiorentina, then lost to Juve, Milan, Bologna. That's poor. Hellas Verona, the bogey team of Italian football.
Inconsistent, that's it.
So I'm not quite. I'm going to go for a Lazio victory based just on what I've seen from Napoli in recent weeks. Let's face it, the 2 goals they scored in the recent games were high quality shots. They weren't sort of tap-ins or anything, Napoli. I think 3-2 flattered them a little bit. So yeah, I'm going to go for a Lazio victory, 1-0 on this occasion.
Love it. Okay, yeah, Napoli will be looking to bounce back after 2 difficult results. Dropped points against Hellas Verona and then lost to Inter last weekend. But Inter lost to Lazio in that really fiery game where Joaquin Correa got sort of
jumped.
Yeah, mugged off by his former teammate Luis Felipe as well. That was a great game. I'm going to go 1-0 Napoli. Okay, let's move on to our next one. RB Leipzig versus Bayer Leverkusen. 7th versus 4th at the moment, currently separated by 3 points. Last weekend, weird results. RB Leipzig got beaten by Hoffenheim, but Bayer Leverkusen they finally got a win against Bochum, having gone 4 games winless prior to that. McCubbs, what are you making?
Instinctively, I think I'll go for Leipzig on this one. I just think they're a more well-rounded team. I think they've grown into the season really well. I didn't actually see the Hoffenheim game, so I can't really comment on what
they were all at sea defensively by the looks of things.
Sorry?
They were all at sea defensively by the looks of things.
Well, that's the thing, because like Bayer Leverkusen are also terrible defensively. Aren't they? So it could be a high-scoring one. I'm going to go 3-1 Leipzig. I like what I've seen from Leipzig generally over the last month.
Okay, Henry. You backing Leverkusen?
It's tricky. Leverkusen holding on in 4th spot, but not very convincing at all. So I've seen him having to use 2 16-year-olds the other day, which isn't as great as that is. It's not. It's not a brilliant sign. I mean, it's slightly worrying. So yeah, I'm gonna go. What do you go? 3-1? Did you say?
3-1, yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna go 2-1. It'll be slightly different, but not too different.
Nice. I'm gonna back Leverkusen. Why not? Why not? Their season as usual they got destroyed by Bayern Munich in the game that everyone was like, oh, could Leverkusen win the title? And then they got destroyed. Then their confidence got flattened. Now they got that win against Bochum. But yeah, I'm going Leverkusen. Why not? I'm going to go 2-0. Let's move on to Juventus versus Atalanta quickly. 8th versus 4th. Atalanta's attack has started kicking into gear again, but we saw against Young Boys, again, quite defensively suspect, which is not something we're expected from a Gasperini team over the last few years. They've got a lot better defensively. Juventus were, as we've already covered, pretty appalling against Chelsea, really inconsistent in the league still. I'm going to go, I want to just see them put them to the sword, but it is in Turin. I'm going to go 2-0 Atalanta. Why not?
I'm going to go 2-2.
2-2?
Yeah.
Henry?
2-2.
I think Juventus is going to shut up shop after that mauling against Chelsea. I'm going to go 1-1. 1-1.
1-1. And our final one, Villarreal versus Barcelona. Did you see El Chiringuito last night?
No.
Saying that the Xavi project was dead.
Wow.
Because they couldn't win against, who was it?
Benfica.
Benfica, of course. I mean, Henry, we were talking about it earlier today, that Seferovic chance. Oh, what a moment for Benfica.
I want to like Seferovic, I really do. And he's had some ridiculous goal-scoring seasons. But to have the sort of thought of mine to flick it over the goalkeeper, then toe punt it wide is just staggeringly bad. But I'm going to go for Villarreal in this one.
Really?
First half against United, they absolutely killed them. I'm quite surprised they lost that. I just think this is I've got to go for a bit of an outside shot. Espanyol did not deserve to lose to Barca in that game. They had so many chances. Yeah. My main man, Raul de Tomas.
Oh yeah, you've got a bit of a bromance going on with him.
Oh, he's amazing.
Well, it's a one-way bromance.
We haven't talked about him enough.
Just an
We actually haven't
aberration.
talked about him at all, I think.
He scores goals, ridiculous goals. So yeah, I think Espanyol really deserves something out of that game. Obviously not particularly convincing against Benfica either. Xavi's still figuring out who he's playing. So more faces coming out of the La Masia, which I've never seen before. Yeah, I can see Villarreal pouncing on them on this one. I'm going to go for a 1-0 victory.
Okay. McCubs, are you backing your boy Xavi?
Nah, I've been really unimpressed by Barca since Xavi's taken over.
It's only 2 games.
Which is fine. In some ways, I watched the Espanyol game, and I found it hard to actually stay on top of it because it was so dull. And but that's in some ways you'd rather that because at least it shows the manager the size of the task at hand. But equally, Villarreal, I'm very rarely am that entertained by them as well.
They are dull.
I think it's going to be quite a boring game, and I think it's going to be I'm going to say I'm going to go for it. I'll go 0-0.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm just going 1-0 Barcelona through some dodgy Depay penalty.
Yeah, that is it, isn't it?
But yeah, Villarreal was so boring against Man United. I really struggled throughout, guys. Get your score predictions in the comments down below. You can play against us and we'll reveal next week who came out on top of week 1. So that's our big match predictions. Also, let us know if you prefer big match preview. We're just trying something new on this, I was about to say Wednesday. Let's do one quick fire question before we leave. Jake C_96 says, name one bleep player that you love anyway, bad player that you love anyway. Who's your this is quite one to throw on you suddenly.
Yeah.
Who do you think is quite poor, but you quite enjoy watching them play? I'll start you off while you think. I think Manolas from Napoli or Ospina from Napoli are quite bad players, but I quite enjoy watching them. It's a bit chaotic. Plus Manolas was that Greek god that rose from the fire.
And he scored the winner against Barcelona that time, didn't he? So it was all that was great. For some reason, I used to, no disrespect to him, but his career, his kind of level did fall off quite dramatically, I think, towards the end of his career. I always used to love, back in the day, suggesting Gabby Bonlahor as just like a pickup for any kind of Premier League club.
Sonny Snelling's new best mate.
Exactly, as the answer to all their problems, even though he was kind of waning in a Villa side that were just kind of, just careering towards relegation. Bless him, because he was great actually when he, in the first few years of his career. I can't really think of. I
think Gabby Agbonlahor's a good one actually.
Can't really think of anyone current.
Yeah. What about you? It can be past or present.
Yeah, I'm struggling to think of
Tim
anyone.
Ream. You love Tim Ream.
I love him, but yeah, I wouldn't say I even enjoy watching him play football. I think that there's that video he did with the Fulham fan recently where the guy started crying. It was an amazing video, actually. Go check it out. Yeah, actually, on a Fulham theme, John Pantsil, I used to think he was terrible, but funny to watch. And also, we used to have this American striker called Eddie Johnson. I don't know if you remember him. And he used to...
Was he a friend of Brian?
We had some really awful substitute, like Eric Nevland. He used to come on for a bit.
Nevland.
So but no, we had Eddie Johnson, who was this American forward, and we had Jay Demerit. We had a load of American players, I think, at one point or something like that. But he would come on, just run around loads for about 10 minutes, do absolutely nothing. It's one of those strikers where you look at their Wikipedia scoring record and it is
terrible,
mildly abysmal. He's not even like a hold-up player. So yeah, very niche one, Eddie Johnson. But yeah, of the current crop of players, there's no one really I would say I hate watching.
Fair enough. Yeah, one just quickly, Jidong Wong, who curled around Joe Hart for that offside goal against Man City, and then pulled out of a header against Fulham, I think it was, from about 2 yards out, and just was like, I don't want to head that. And he got sold promptly. Don't know what he's up to now. Guys, that's Continental Club for this week. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. We might well be back upstairs next week, but yeah, we've kind of enjoyed being down here. Thank you very much to the East Dulwich Tavern for having us once again. McCubs, if they've enjoyed this, what should they go and watch now?
They should go and, there's a couple of explains coming out this weekend, one about Bielsa's Leeds, and one about if Pochettino did go to Man United, how would he be able to fix them? Those are both out this weekend, so stay tuned for those.
Nice. Anything from you, Henry?
Yeah, we've got a scout report coming out on Giovanni Van Bronckhorst, the new Rangers manager. George behind the camera told me the best thing he's ever edited. He said it was the most enjoyable script he'd ever.
We're getting some head shakes now.
No. Anyway, he's quite an interesting guy. He's achieved a lot more than Gerrard did before taking that job. So yeah, I'm excited to see.
Final 2017, right? That was a big season.
Yeah,
like,
so they won the
Dirk Kuyt, who was back there.
They won the FA Dutch sort of Cup 2016. He won Eredivisie the year after that, blitzed it. Dirk Kuyt scoring goals for fun, and then he won the Dutch Cup again. So 3 years, 3 trophies.
Not bad at all.
Not bad at all. Guys, also stay tuned for tomorrow. Hopefully there's a transfer preview, a very special transfer preview hitting your screens at 10 a.m. Guys, thank you very much for watching. As usual, we'll catch you next week. Goodbye.